Be honest with yourself. You almost certainly have that one neighbor whose currants, cherries, or grapevine produce fruits so generous and so delicious that you're tempted to sneak over the fence with a pair of pruning shears. But the moment you ask what variety it is, they just smile knowingly and change the subject to the weather. Nobody's in a hurry to share their secret. Meanwhile, nurseries charge a small fortune for a single premium sapling. And what's sold to you as an exclusive variety often turns out to be an ordinary wild seedling wrapped in a fancy label. Stop. Enough with the envy, and enough with overpaying. Today we are breaking down a completely legal gardening trick that experienced growers have used for decades. How to get an exact copy of any tree or shrub you admire, absolutely free, from nothing more than a single cutting. There's no magic here, no mystery, just plant biology, a bit of patience, and the right approach for each specific plant. Welcome to Garden Secrets. Today, we'll walk through everything, from the easiest crops, which literally root in a glass of water on your windowsill, to genuine botanical challenges that will earn you a respectful nod from any veteran gardener once you pull them off. So here they are, 15 plants that propagate from arranged from easiest to hardest, from beginner to expert. Get comfortable, grab a notebook, and let's start with the true queen of easy rooting, black and red. This plant is so undemanding that it seems capable of taking root in a crack in pavement if a cutting happened to fall there by accident. No complicated technique is required at all. In early spring, before the buds open, or in late autumn, after the leaves have fallen, find last year's woody shoots about pencil length, roughly 15 to 20 centimeters. Make the lower cut just below a bud, at an angle, and the upper cut straight above a bud. Here's the best part. You don't need jars of water, greenhouses, or cold frames. Just walk out to a bed of loose, pre-dug soil and push the cuttings straight into the ground, leaving only 2 or 3 buds above the surface. If spring is dry, water every few days. If it rains, forget about the cuttings entirely for a month. Within 4 to 5 weeks, the first tender green leaves appear where dry sticks used to be, and by autumn you'll have a fully formed young shrub, an exact genetic copy of the parent plant. Willow and ornamental poplar root even more easily than currants, if that's even possible. Simply push a freshly cut branch into damp soil near a fence or a pond, and within a couple of weeks you'll see the first leaves. Gardeners often use these plants as a living hedge. Plant a row of cuttings every 30 to 40 centimeters, and within 2 or 3 years you'll have a dense green wall. Grapevine is another crop that even a complete beginner can handle without any prior experience. You can propagate it from green, herbaceous cuttings in summer or from woody cuttings in spring. The simplest method is to place the cut pieces in a jar of room temperature settled water and simply wait. Within 2 to 3 weeks, white root bumps appear at the lower nodes, and once they reach a couple of centimeters in length, the cutting can safely be transplanted into light, nutrient-rich soil. Edible honeyberry, which has become incredibly popular among gardeners in recent years thanks to its extra early berries, propagates similarly but is a bit more particular about substrate. It needs a light, moist, breathable mix, for example, perlite and peat in equal parts. Root the cuttings under plastic film or a cut plastic bottle, maintaining constant humidity inside the mini greenhouse. Within 3 weeks, a solid root mass forms under the cover, and the plant can gradually be acclimated to open air. Let's move up a level. Gooseberry is considerably fussier than its close relative, the currant. Dry spring branches won't work here. You specifically need this year's summer green shoots that have already firmed up slightly. Strip the lower leaves completely and trim the upper ones by about half to reduce moisture loss through the leaf surface. Place the cuttings in shade, cover with a glass jar or a cut bottle, and ventilate regularly to prevent rot. Raspberries in the vast majority of cases spread through root suckers, young shoots the plant generously sends up around the parent bush. But if you're determined to propagate a specific cutting, say a rare ever-bearing variety, take a green shoot in June, remove the lower leaves, and keep it under constant high humidity, misting it regularly with a spray bottle. Roses are typically taken as cuttings toward the end of the blooming season, when the buds are starting to fade but the stem is still green and flexible enough. Cut a section of stem with 2 or 3 buds, angle the lower cut just below a bud, and cut the top straight above one. Place it in moist coarse sand, cover with a jar, and within a month the first thin white roots will appear beneath the surface. Hydrangea is a plant landscape designers adore, And the good news is that propagating it from a cutting isn't difficult at all. It needs a light peat sand substrate and high air humidity under cover. Take a cutting with 2 or 3 pairs of leaves, remove the lower ones completely, and place it under a clear plastic cup or jar. Within 3 to 4 weeks of regular ventilation and moistening of the substrate, the first roots appear, and within another month the young plant is ready for transplanting to its permanent spot. Many people mistakenly assume fig is strictly a southern, exotic plant, but in reality it grows perfectly well in temperate regions when covered for winter. And it propagates more easily than the geranium on grandma's windowsill. In summer or at the end of winter, cut a healthy, sturdy shoot. The cut will immediately ooze sticky white sap. This is completely normal. Just gently rinse it off with warm running water so it doesn't clog the wood's pores and hinder rooting. Then switch to maximum simplicity mode. Take an ordinary glass jar, fill it with water, drop in 1 tablet of activated charcoal to keep the water from turning stagnant, and place the cuttings inside. Within a couple of weeks on the windowsill, a whole lush brush of white roots appears at the cut, and the plant can be potted up. Sea buckthorn is a slightly more complicated story, because here you need not just your hands but a bit of logic too. You can propagate it from either dry branches in early spring or green shoots in summer. The plant is hardy either way. But sea buckthorn is a dioecious crop, meaning male and female bushes grow separately. If you take cuttings only from a fruiting female bush, you'll never get any berries on your property. There will be nothing to pollinate the flowers. So arrange with your neighbor in advance, mark both bushes, and take a couple of branches from each. With plum, you need to catch a precise timing window, like a spy on a mission. Cut the branch too early in spring, and it will simply rot from excess moisture without active growth. Wait too long and cut it in autumn, and the wood will have hardened, refusing to root no matter how much rooting hormone you apply. The optimal time is June, when this year's young shoot has firmed up slightly at the base while the tip is still soft and actively growing. It's exactly this transitional, semi-woody state you need to catch. Cherry plum is far more forgiving and patient than its relative, the plum. It roots readily and eagerly, and its main advantage is that a tree grown from a cutting will be entirely own-rooted. That means it will never send up wild rootstock suckers that choke out the premium variety, as often happens with store-bought grafted saplings. Every branch, every bud, and even a random shoot from underground on such a tree will be that exact desired variety, never an anonymous wild type. Sour cherry roots reasonably well overall, but it has one serious flaw. It's a genuine mess and loves to rot at the slightest opportunity. If you plant a cutting the old-fashioned way in rich garden soil or stand it in a jar of plain water, the cut will blacken almost instantly, and the plant will die within a couple of days. Sour cherry needs a true air castle, a light, fluffy, maximally breathable substrate, such as store-bought peat heavily diluted with vermiculite. Insert summer green cuttings into this mix, mist with a spray bottle, and cover with a second clear cup on top like a dome, ventilating the cover regularly. Sweet cherry, meanwhile, is the true diva among stone fruits. Where sour cherry just needs attention, sweet cherry demands surgical precision. In water, it rots almost instantly. In ordinary soil, it suffocates from lack of air. It needs a perfect moisture balance, not too dry. Yet water must never pull at the cut for even a second. This is where clean coarse construction sand or agroperlite with mandatory drainage holes at the bottom of the container comes to the rescue. Apple is arguably the biggest trigger for heated debate in the comments under any gardening video. The reason is that modern, fussy hybrid varieties genuinely almost never root from cuttings, which is why most experts online confidently claim that rooting apple is simply impossible. But old, time-tested heirloom varieties, like certain heritage apples or ordinary, small-fruited crab apples, root quite readily. Take summer green cuttings, insert them into cups of clean river sand, cover with a jar, water regularly, and wait. Pear ventures into territory where even experienced gardeners will shake their heads skeptically. Its success rate for rooting genuinely is below average, but with the right approach, results are achievable. Our window is midsummer, when the shoots are semi-woody. Cut the pieces, remove the lower leaves. Trim the upper ones by half, soak them in rooting stimulant for several hours. Plant in light, breathable soil. And stock up on patience. Pear takes its time. Walnut is the true final boss of our list. Its wood contains an enormous amount of tannins that essentially block root formation outright. Rooting it through ordinary methods is nearly impossible. But experienced gardeners have a secret weapon, the etiolation method, essentially tricking the plant with darkness. A month before cutting, while the shoot is still growing on the tree, tightly wrap the base of the target green shoot in black tape. In the dark, the tissue under the tape turns pale, tannin content drops, and the beginnings of future roots start to form right there. Let's break down why most beginners end up with a gloomy, rotten swamp of cups instead of a lush free garden. The first mistake is a timing disaster. People either cut wood that has already hardened, from which no roots will ever come, or they take a shoot that's too soft and watery, which rots within a couple of days. The second mistake is oversized cuttings. A long branch simply cannot sustain itself, so the ideal size is pencil length, with a maximum of 3 or 4 buds. The third problem is being stingy about removing leaves. If you leave the full leaf mass, water evaporation will kill the cutting before roots ever form. So strip the lower leaves completely and ruthlessly trim the upper ones by half. The fourth mistake is heavy garden soil instead of a sterile, airy substrate, perlite, vermiculite, or a mix of clean peat and sand. And the fifth issue is direct sunlight, under a clear cover. The temperature can spike to 50 degrees Celsius within minutes, literally cooking the cuttings alive. As for overwintering already rooted cuttings, the key is preventing them from freezing outdoors while also avoiding drying out in a hot, dry apartment. A time-tested method: take an ordinary mesh plastic crate meant for vegetables, arrange the clear cups with rooted cuttings tightly inside it, and fill the gaps with dry peat or sawdust for extra insulation. Place the finished crate in the quietest, most wind-sheltered spot on your property, for instance under an old, sprawling apple tree, and cover it with 2 layers of thick white garden fleece. In spring, remove the cover, and your entire mini nursery, intact and undamaged, will be ready for transplanting to its permanent home without a single loss. Tell us in the comments which plant you'll risk rooting this season. Share your own gardening successes, hit like on this video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes.